Hi, it's me, MC. Did you know that you could reduce your risk to Alzheimer's by over 50% by choosing a diet that's called the Mind Diet? And even if you're not very rigid with these guidelines of that diet, you can still reduce your risk to cognitive decline by 35%. That's impressive because when we think about our mental health, we have to think about what can we do with the things that are modifiable in our life, such as movement and diet, to help ourselves stay mentally sharp well into our 80s and 90s. Let's talk about it. So, this is MC of Healthy by George. I come each week to talk about how we can age into our 80s and 90s and be the best version of who we are. So, think about subscribing. I would love to see you here. It doesn't cost you anything. Have people join me in this discussion because who knows? We need much as sport as we can get, right? So, please support me at this channel, and I would love to hear your comments and your ideas. And let's discuss it because that's the only way we can make things change both for ourselves and for our society. What is this mind diet? Well, I loved learning about this, that apparently this is a diet that Rush University Medical Center developed in 2015. And it stands for the Mediterranean DASH diet. And DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. That makes sense, right? Dash. Because truthfully, if we're helping ourselves and we're helping our heart health, we're also helping our brain health. And really, this diet focuses on how we can make a more nutrient-rich, plant-based, high in antioxidants and vitamins and flavonoids and omega-3 fatty acids, so that this will help us reduce the inflammation that's going on in our body and support our brain health. That's really what we need, as much brain health support as we can get as we get older. Because there is this thing about our brain shrinking as we get older. It's just sort of part of aging, unfortunately. So the Mind Diet is a flexible diet. It has a lot of things in it that are helpful because there are 10 brain healthy food groups that you can choose from. And you have to stay away from what's called the 5 unhealthy groups. So let's talk about what the 10 groups are. The first group is vegetables. Bright green leafy vegetables of all kinds. The darker, the greener, or the crunchier. These are all rich in folate and vitamin E and carotenoids for brain protection. So you need to eat quite a number of servings, at least 6 servings per week. 6 servings? You should be thinking about 2 servings a day of green leafy vegetables. I love vegetables. I live for vegetables. If I could eat nothing but vegetables, I would probably do it. I just think that they're wonderful. And of course, not just green leafy vegetables. The second group is other vegetables, such as carrots, bell peppers, broccoli, green beans, tomatoes, anything. And all of these give us antioxidants and fiber. That's the second group. So you know what? Group 1 and 2 are all about vegetables. The next one is berries. Fruits. I love berries. Listen, I think they only recommend 2 servings of berries a week. Believe me, I want to have a serving of berries every single day. I love how Andrew Huberman for the Huberman podcast talks about how he eats blueberries all the time. And I do too. I love them. Blueberries and pears and apples. I make this very low sugar compote. I stew the fruit. I eat it on all kinds of things. And it is so wonderful because berries are high in antioxidants and they are a polyphenol, which is very helpful. I'm not thinking off the top of my head what a polyphenol is, but apparently they're very good. The other thing is nuts, at least 5 servings of nuts per week. And that's really like a small handful, like an ounce. They're a great source of healthy fats and vitamin E. I love almonds. I love peanuts. I have walnuts, any kind of nut, pistachios. But you know what? I'm considering a nut because I love peanut butter on my celery. What can I say? Other thing is whole grains. They want you to have 3 servings per day of whole grains. That seems a lot, but you know what? Oatmeal, brown rice, whole wheat, healthy popcorn, all of these things are high in fiber and high in B vitamins. B vitamins are key for our nervous system, and they help us have better sustained energy, but we need to combine it with some protein in here. Fish, at least 1 serving per week. That seems low to me too. I eat a lot of fish per week. I love sardines. They are delicious. They are some of the best sardines I have ever had. And so I really like to have a serving of sardines like a week, sometimes twice a week. Of course, I think some people don't like sardines, but you know what? Get over it. If you don't like the way they look, flake it into a salad. You wouldn't be surprised. You wouldn't notice it. You would think you were eating tuna fish, but it has such a good flavor. So eating fish is key because it's rich in omega-3 fatty acids and DHA for anti-inflammatory effects. We need to have anything and everything to keep inflammation down. Poultry is another item that they add, at least 2 servings per week. Chicken, turkey, all not fried, of course, and they're lean, compared to red meat. So any kind of a poultry item is useful, except maybe duck. Well, I don't mind. I think duck is good too, but you'd have to eat duck probably without the skin and the fat on the breast, most poultry items. Beans and legumes. You know what? I love beans. I just love putting some garbanzo beans in my salads or making these wonderful black beans to eat with my eggs in the morning with some salsa. Delish. You must try it. And it's really, and you, instead of eating like a piece of toast, you have a small piece of a protein pita. What a great choice. The other thing is olive oil. Using that as your primary fat for cooking and dressings is really important. It has monounsaturated fats that support heart and brain health. So olive oil, we all know, is pretty key. And the last thing that's part of this MIND diet, which I think is sort of a strange thing, is a glass of wine, at least once per day. Well, I'm just not an alcohol drinker, and I'm on the fence about drinking alcohol, but this is optional. So it's up to you. Some people like to have that glass of wine every day, but I'm not a wine drinker. In fact, I'm not a drinker at all. So I choose to not have any alcohol. And I do that because of my own brain health. I had some very strange symptoms after the last drink I ever had. It made me feel kind of woozy, and I thought, never again. So, do what you need to do when it comes to alcohol. If you like an occasional drink, go for it. But I'm not doing it. I feel like it's against me. That's the key. We do the research of one. What works for me may not work for you, and I support that fully. The other thing is to limit these 5 groups. Red meats. They really want you to reduce the servings that you have per week of beef, pork, and lamb of red meat. I'm on the fence about that too. I think if you've got very good, lean, grass-fed beef or pork or lamb, any of these kinds of meats that are lean and they have a good history of having grass-fed, there's a couple of things that you do. I forget the names. But I think if you support getting those for yourself, I don't think that's such a big deal. I think the one thing that I'm on the fence about too is butter. They want you to limit 1 tablespoon per day. And I can do that fairly well if I'm not eating a potato, sweet potato, or toast. I love a little butter on my toast. But you know what? I'm really focusing on getting those high quality butters. Those one, again, that come from those grass-fed cows. Very important. Now, the other problem I have is cheese. They want you to limit your cheese servings to once per week. Ugh, I don't know about that. I have trouble with that one too. Cheese is something I really enjoy. And I don't know, I love cottage cheese. There's so much you can do with cottage cheese. So maybe if it's low fat and you're eating it for the protein and maybe you're only eating it several times a week, I think it falls in that same category of some good yogurt is good cottage cheese. Pastries and sweets. Well, okay, come on. Pastries and cheeks, those are kind of all fat and sugar. So they want you to limit that to less than 5 servings per week. I can do that. I can limit it to one serving per week because I'm just not eating pastries and sweets. Although I don't want to cut them out. I really don't. I have a sweet tooth. Then the final thing is fried or fast foods. Do not eat fried or fast foods more than once a week. Okay, I say try to make it less than that. Do it like maybe once every 2 weeks, eat something fried or, that's from fast food, or even once a month, because truthfully, fried and fast food are just not great for our health. And so this is what's really great. If you strictly adhere to the MIND diet, that you can decrease your risk of Alzheimer's by 53%. That's what the studies show. And even if you're not strict, you can still reduce it by 35%. And those are pretty good numbers. It can slow your cognitive decline. You can improve your memory. It supports everything with regards to your mental sharpness. And basically, it promotes better blood flow and nutritious whole foods. It's not always easy because we're busy and we don't have time. But here's an example. You can have an oatmeal in the morning with berries. You can add chia seeds to it to increase your protein and maybe a few nuts. For lunch, you can have some grilled chicken on some leafy greens with some vegetables and olive oil and lemon, and have a piece of bread, whole grain. For snack, again, you can have some yogurt and unsweetened and put some berries in it. Or I like to put sometimes a few crunchy carrots. I know that sounds kind of crazy to chop up carrots and put them in there, but you know what? When you eat a carrot, it kind of tastes sweet and crunchy. So I kind of like that. Then for dinner, you can have some baked salmon or a lean piece of meat with some type of a high fiber quinoa or brown rice or sweet potato or steamed broccoli and some green beans or any kind of wonderful green. Or there's so many different things that you can create with cabbage. I've kind of gotten into the cabbage field. And of course, there's always that optional glass of wine if you want it. Ultimately, talk to your doctor. Find out what's best for you. Talk to a dietitian if you feel confused. There's so many things that we can do to help ourselves that are modifiable to keep our brains functioning well into our 80s and 90s. But we need to be intentional about our diet. Try the MIND diet. Hey, try anything that will help you eat whole, nutritious foods. That's the key. And then movement. Move. Even if you have challenges with your joints, doing any kind of seated movement is useful. So that's what I think is the best approach. Do something super small every single day that will support who you are well into your 80s and 90s. And so please think about subscribing. I would love to see you here each week where we can share and encourage one another to continue the process of doing something daily, every single day that supports the future of who we are becoming. So don't you want to be functional well into your 80s and 90s? I know I do. So please join me. And I'd love to see you subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Because remember, we have this one precious life. Let's live it intentionally. Bye-bye. So thank you so much for joining me at Healthy by George. I hope you found the information inspiring and that it encourages you on your wellness journey. Because remember, your body, your well-being are a most precious gift, and every tiny action taken daily can make a huge difference. I hope the information here is educational purposes and is not meant to replace your medical care. See your doctor and talk about what works for you. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me continuing creating content that inspires and empowers you to live your best life. Goodbye for now, and join me again at the next Healthy by George.